Well guys, I have a special video here today because I'm sitting with the greatest of all time, in my opinion here, Mario Andretti. Mario, thanks for taking a couple minutes here and chatting with me. I have a couple questions for you. You've been doing this for how many years?
Well, since 1959. That was my very first season, full season of racing. And 1959, I stepped out of Indy cars in 1994, but my last professional race was 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2000.
That's still a long range of racing.
Yeah, pretty much 41 years.
Wow. So, in that massive span of time, you know, you've seen the sport go from the earliest years of just no safety, no seatbelts, nothing like that, all the way up to now. You know, what's the biggest change in the sport in terms of the biggest, most critical, and the most impacting change in racing in general, even?
Well, obviously, you could always say technically, you know, where were we back in the 60s versus where are we now? But I think you just mentioned something. I think the safety aspect is probably the biggest advancement that we have done, and the best thing we could have done for the sport. Because, you know, as the sport became more commercial, you don't want negatives, you don't want the fatalities that we were experiencing in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, and all of that. So, and as far as the technical side, it was every decade had something, you know, that they featured. It was either engines, chassis, chassis, and then of course the aero in the 70s. That part was so totally fascinating from my standpoint, because this is something that I always look forward to, that, you know, the better mousetrap type of thing. And we always looking forward to a new car every year and all that. And you know, not all the cars, the new cars were born. Some had cross-eyed or a shorter leg or something like that. Yeah. Not all of them were. They were 100% all the time. Yeah. But in general, it was just something to look forward to. And I'm so fortunate that I've had the opportunity to just live through all of these decades, you know, with the development, the tire aspect of it, you know, as we know it today, from, you know, normally aspirated, turbocharged, and all that. But the aerodynamic impact, however, was the biggest thing as far as ultimate performance of the race car.
So, with the aerodynamics and everything that's learned on the racetrack, you know, how important is it for manufacturers such as Honda to have a big focus in racing to be able to translate that out to the road cars? Because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of things in road cars, performance, safety, was derived on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, this is an ongoing argument, but manufacturers like Honda, Mercedes, you know, and Formula One and Renault, they're not there just because they like the sport, or Chevrolet just because they like the sport. They're there because they gain something out of it, as far as the development and the fact that you go to you know, you're controlled by a rule book, and try to just really play the limit, you know, bend the rules a little bit. Well, just go to the limit of what you can do, which brings the best of engineering, you know, engineering minds, you know, just like a great lawyer that can interpret the law better than the next guy, you know, obviously. So it's the same thing, and there's a sense of urgency also in our sport, and that's why many of the engineers that Honda has out in the field, you know, with every team, they sense that. There's always, oh wow, you know, it's not mañana, you know, everything has to happen now. And I think from that standpoint, there's a lot of positives that a manufacturer can get as far as, you know, what goes on in the culture of our sport. But ultimately, there's no better test bed, you know, than what we have, because of the rigor that you put engines through, you know. I mean, you're at the limit all the time,
110%.
Bam, bam, I mean, you're right at the limit. And the way the rules are, where the engine has to be in a car, you know, subject to penalty for, like, you know, 2,500 miles or something. Can you imagine that, an engine that's flat out, you know, for never breeding for 2,500 miles has to last.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot that is learned through that, and like I say, you can have many test beds, and of course, in today's technology, a lot of the manufacturers, they have their own testing facilities. But as far as the sport really takes you to the next level, and so that's why they're there. I mean, of course, you know, the history of Honda, for instance, you know, is so rich. You know, the tradition, you know, successful in Formula One, successful Indy cars, MotoGP, you know, in every form of the sport that they've entered. And they're proud of that, you know, because again, you know, it gives you a sense of pride, even, you know, to be working with the manufacturers. And you know what, you know, we walk with our head high, you know, and all of that. So, you know, it's a great feeling.
Well, that's all I had. Those are my two big questions, and I appreciate you taking the time, guys. I'm glad you're able to have the camera in here and follow along. And rumor has it you'll be taking me for a little spin here.
Troy, enjoy the ride.
I will. Thank you.